Hello everybody, this is Gregory with Permanent Weight Loss Made Easy, where there should be no hesitance in your weight loss and in your weight maintenance. Today we're going to talk about, can fat shaming be motivational to the obese? Now before we begin, if you need help from the weight loss perspective, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. I have a pretty high rating, and as many of you guys know, I've lost over 100 pounds and I've kept it off for 30 plus years. Also post a comment if you like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. So, some of you might be like, Gregory, fat shaming, how is that motivational? Well, look, I think most people who are overweight have a disordered relationship with food. It's not a glandular issue, as we say. It's because you're eating too much. Let's be real, right? We have a disordered relationship with food that typically was started in childhood and continues to this day. And you could extrapolate this out to alcohol or porn or gambling or whatever it is. And many times with binge eaters, and I was like this myself, if you guys are new to the channel, definitely go to the two personal playlists I have, Confessions of an Obese Child and Revelations of a Weight Loss Warrior. You can find them on the homepage. And I talked about my binge eating and that I started to eat inordinately around age 5 or age 6 because of my parents. My father wasn't giving me nurturance and he was up and down depending on the alcohol. And then my mom was just checked out, depressed, and she wasn't giving me nurturance. Oh, so I started to gain weight, and then when I was in elementary school, then I started to get the fat jokes and all that, which then fueled me to eat more. So when we get to the topic, is fat shaming motivational? Well, for many, it's not going to be, because all it's going to do is make you self-loathe. And people who have a disordered relationship with food are already self-loathing, right? I mean, it's not like you're like da-da-da-da-da, and you don't know that you're overeating or overdrinking or whatnot. And then someone's going to say something like, you're fat or whatever. And you're like, you know what? You're right. And then you'll be like, da-ba-da-ba-da. We like to live in denial. This is why many times we don't like to look in the mirror. Many times you'll hear kids who think they have a good singing voice when they don't. Like, I have a great singing voice. You're like... So we want to be in denial in a lot of things. And so typically we don't like to be called out, even on truths. We get defensive. So if somebody says, or people continually say, you're overweight, you need to lose weight, the large majority of people are just going to turn inward and then hate themselves because they're already predisposed to hating themselves. There's a proclivity to that. And it's probably going to make them eat more, which then reinforces the problem. Now, there are going to be people who are going to be like, oh, I don't like being called that. And they might have that little spark of defiance in them and be like, oh, you know what? Oh, you think I'm this way? Well, I'm going to show you. And then they start to lose the weight. That is possible. I would say, is body shaming, fat shaming motivational? Well, it really depends on the person. Should we be shaming everybody who's fat? I don't think so. I don't think that's effective overall. And look, when I was fat in the 80s, it was a different time. The obesity was not nearly as pervasive. So nowadays, most teenagers who are overweight, they don't really get fat shamed because everyone's overweight pretty much now. Even the amount of teenage obesity is so high that you're getting made fun of for other reasons than your obesity. What I would say is there's going to be a strand of people that they hear enough of the ridicule, the derision, the name calling, that eventually they are going to get to a point or they're like, I've had it. And I think of my life. I started to lose the weight when I was about 17 because I had been going to dietitians my whole life. My parents were shoving me dietitians and I didn't want to go. And none of them were effective. All the plans they put me on, I would still binge eat because I loved the food more than I loved myself. But like with alcoholics or drug addicts, there reaches a point with many people that you hit rock bottom. And for me, the rock bottom was I smell, I can't wipe my ass. My mom's got to put baby powder on me every day because I would develop rashes because I couldn't wipe and my legs were so fat that I would get chafing all around there. And I had my mother having to clean me when I'm 15, 16. I also realized I'm probably never going to kiss a woman, much less have sex with a woman, much less get married. And so all these kind of aligned at a point. All the name calling was continuing in high school. Probably not as bad as in elementary school, but still there. I reached the point where I had suicidal ideation. I talk about it on my personal playlist on Confessions of an Obese Child. So all these things kind of aligned where I just had it. And That's what motivated me. And it was a little thing. And I talk about, like, how did I lose my weight? There's an episode where I had this coach who motivated me he wasn't like some of the other coaches where, like, we would have to run a lap, and either the coaches wouldn't make me run the lap, or I was so slow that I would get a quarter of the track lap by the time everyone finished, and the coach would just tell me to come back, and of course everyone's making fun of me and laughing at me. But he really pushed me, and he said my name. He goes, "You're gonna die young. Do you want that?" And for some reason, maybe all these things aligned at that point, that I really took it to heart. So I started to lose weight, 5 pounds. Most of that was water. At this point, I'm probably like 280, size 56 waist. I had to go to big and fat stores, big and tall stores, as they used to call them. Again, go to the personal playlist if you want all these anecdotal stories I would tell. And that was the motivation. I only lost 5 pounds, but it was I lost something. I got a little of the weight loss, and all these other things lined up where I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And then it just went from there and went from there and went from there. And I don't know if I would have gotten to that point if it wasn't for the name calling, because I finally reached a point where I was like, I've had it. And maybe if I wasn't being name called and fat shamed, I wouldn't have gotten there. I don't know. And I'm not saying straight out that we should all be seeing every fat person. You're a fat pig. No, first of all, that's not Christ-like. And secondly, it's not going to be motivational. But I think with a lot of morbidly overweight people, and you can definitely post in the comments if you're like this or you're still like this, eventually there is going to reach a point where it's the put up, shut up, there's a line in the sand kind of thing where you're going to have to make a decision. And I made a decision. And look, of course, I'm glad I made a decision because my life was forever changed. And this is one of the reasons why I'm a Christian for life, because God saved me. And I have an episode here on survivor's guilt. Why did I lose the weight and other people didn't? But he saved me, and I will ever be for his debt. Because of the weight loss, I was able to experience things that I otherwise would not experience. And so when I tell people I'm overweight, they're like, you were overweight for a long time? I can't even tell. I'm like, well, the psychological trauma is there, and that's just one of the reasons I have this channel, is to talk about it. But I do think that there can be good that comes from fat shaming. Kind of like the principle of hormesis. Like you put a stress on the body, and even though the body doesn't like it, it reacts to it, and the reaction to it overall is beneficial. So exercise is a hormetic effect, for example. And so I think for some people, this can be effective. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.